Protests against systemic racism and police brutality erupted quickly across the United States after George Floyd's death.
When a law enforcement officer, the one that you've been told, hey, if you're in trouble, this is who you go seek out, they're the ones that did it. They're the ones that caused your loved one's death. That compounds it. And then you add on top of that the second part, which is the racial disparity. And it really hits home for the indignities that people of color have to put up with every day in this country.
In the case of Drew Edwards, a 22-year-old white man from Maquoketa, Iowa, race is not a factor. But Dave O'Brien, who represents the family of Drew Edwards, said the circumstances leading to his death come close in comparison. In June of 2019, 2 officers were trying to arrest Edwards for assault. Body camera footage of the incident show Edwards initially resisting the officers' orders. He was repeatedly tased and pinned to the ground as a result.
One of the officers sat on his head, neck, and shoulder, while the other sat on his lower body and legs for over 12 minutes. And then they waited another 3 minutes after he was non-responsive before turning him into the recovery position on his side, and it was way too late. He was dead.
A medical examiner ruled his death a homicide, citing cardiac arrest caused by tasing and restraint-related asphyxiation. No charges were filed against either officer.
The facts were investigated, not thoroughly, I might add. It was nothing but a whitewash.
Muscatine County's former top prosecutor, Alan Austergren, draws a different conclusion. He believes there are substantial differences between the deaths of Floyd and Edwards, saying, quote, Mr. Edwards was actively resisting arrest and fighting with the officers, whereas Mr. Floyd was not. The officers were struggling to get Mr. Edwards handcuffed. They were not doing anything like placing a knee on the neck of a helpless person who was not resisting. In the case of George Floyd, O'Brien said he was pleasantly surprised to see the police chief in Minneapolis immediately fire the officers involved in his death and to see one of those officers charged with his murder.
That is virtually unheard of in these kinds of situations in my experience.
O'Brien is proposing some changes to the system to address police brutality and to hold authorities accountable. He's suggesting independent police review boards that would investigate any allegations of wrongdoing against a police officer. O'Brien also wants the system to do away with qualified immunity, which allows law enforcement officers to avoid liability for their misconduct. In Eastern Iowa, Beth Walden, KTVO News.